Hey guys, thanks for tuning in to this episode of Astros Baseball. Joining me today from the Dbacks Dispatch is Gabe. Gabe, what's up, buddy?
Hey, how's it going? I'm doing pretty well. Just mourning the loss of what we're gonna talk about Christian Walker, but so far I'm excited for Naylor though.
Yeah, well, that's where I wanted to hear. You're mourning that player, so we should be pretty happy to get him. So anyway, folks, the Astros sign. I'm about 2 or 3 days late here. We just did the podcast talking about our other new guy and losing Kyle Tucker. And then the next day we get this happening. But the Astros signed three-time Gold Glove first baseman Christian Walker to a 3-year deal, $60 million, so $20 million a year. He put in his contract, I believe, that he can block a trade to 6 teams. And it also involves performance bonuses for MVP finish 1 through 5, World Series, League Championship Series MVPs, All Star, Gold Glove, which he'll probably get that bonus, and Silver Slugger. First off, what's your thoughts about the Astros signing Christian Walker, and what were the chances that you thought that he was going to stay in Arizona?
So a lot of the reporting came back that originally in our podcast we had talked about the bare minimum to get Christian Walker would be 3 years, 60 million. So that was the bare minimum, starting point for Walker. And as soon as we saw guys like Juan Soto go for 765 million, and saw all these guys coming off the board, for maybe $100 million more than what they originally seemed to be going for, we started to think, all right, so whoever gets Christian Walker is probably going to be 3 years, 80 million, 4 years, 80 million. We started to see, our hopes being dashed because of that. And then when the report came out and there was 3 years, 60 million, we all were honestly in shock that he didn't stay in Arizona. As of right now, we don't know what the details of the Arizona contract were, whether they just offered him 2 years, whether it was a deferred contract, or if it was a front loaded contract, 22, 23 million the first couple of years, and then 16, 14 million, whatever, at the last year of the contract. So it's kind of just wait and see. Maybe once there's the actual press conference with Walker to see, what the D-backs offered him originally. But I mean, you guys are getting a great guy. There's a reason why we all wanted him back, and he's a three-time Gold Glover. He's a great defender. He can hit 30 bombs when he's healthy, and I guess that might be a little bit of a knock that he didn't stay healthy last year. But it was, I don't know if did you know what play he got hurt on? It's a very strange play.
No, I didn't know.
So he was running towards the ball in foul territory, turned around, did a basket catch. There was a man on first, and he like tried to throw him out. It was kind of a dumb decision to try to get the guy, but he did sort of like a Jeter throw, but like a fadeaway version of a Jeter
Hmm.
throw. And after that, he hurt his oblique, and he was hurt for about a month after that. So,
Oh, wow.
but when he was healthy, he was tearing the cover off the ball. And when he came back, he did struggle a little bit. Unfortunately, it was too late into the season for him to find his rhythm again. So he struggled at the bottom, maybe 2 weeks of the season, I believe it was when he came back. That's why his numbers were what they were. But before he got injured, he was in the mid 260s, over 800 OPS. So if you guys, get that Christian Walker, then you guys have a really, really good, solid player there. And, to join the Astros, I know you guys lost Kyle Tucker and Bregman, but he isn't those guys, but he is so far, a good replacement to see where they go from there.
Yeah. So the Astros had, I think Yuli Gurriel was there for a while, and he actually won the batting title. Big time loved player with the Astros. And then we signed Jose Abreu, and he was just a huge flop.
Yeah,
And so we haven't really been getting any performance
production.
from
Yeah.
production. That's the word I'm looking for. Somebody just came to my house, and I'm hoping they just tone it down a little bit. That's why I was a little distracted. But yeah, and so I think we're all pretty happy about this in Houston. Just recently, I don't know the details of what they tried to give away, but they tried to trade for Arenado, and none
Yeah.
of us wanted that. We're like, why would they want it and none of us want it? How do we know that it's not a good decision? But the Astros went after it. Did you read about that?
Yeah, I did. I saw that he blocked that trade. I believe the Astros are in, I think he has 6 or 7 teams that he also has on his no list. I believe the Diamondbacks are one of those. But when he signed the contract with the Rockies, this was deep and to, I believe it was the same season they went to the wild card series, and the D-backs just destroyed the Rockies. So could just been bad blood in between NL West rivals and stuff. So at this point in his career, who knows if he would reject a trade to the Diamondbacks? Because he's honestly not going to be doing much in St. Louis for a while. So he's a gamer. He wants to win, but in terms of being a good match, I think he probably would be a little bit better of a match here in Arizona than he would be in Houston. Just based off certain lineup constructions and stuff like that, he would get everyday play here.
Yeah, we didn't want him. So we loved it. We loved it. We got Christian Walker. So they had the press conference. I think it was today. Walker said that the deal happened pretty quick. So it had to be an Arenado turned it down, and then they turned their sights on him. He said it happened real quick, but he said Houston is one of the teams that he and his wife Amanda had identified in the offseason as a team that they would like to sign with. Are there any teams that you, as a Christian Walker fan, was like, just don't go there? Dodgers?
The Dodgers, yeah, he completely owns the Dodgers. To have you know, the greatest Dodger killer go to the Dodgers would be an insult to baseball.
Yeah.
But I was just happy for him to get a contract. I mean, he's I know he struggled a lot through his career, and just not so much his fault, but just because of the guys in front of him. When he was with Baltimore, he was behind Chris Davis. He was never going to get played in time behind Chris Davis, and he was traded to Atlanta for a period of time. He's not going to get playing time over the Brave, Freddie Freeman. Then when he moved here to Arizona, same thing. We had our Gold Glove MVP candidate Paul Goldschmidt playing first base every day. He wasn't going to get much playing time. So once he had playing time in 2019, if you compare him and Goldschmidt's numbers, they're identical that year. And then he became a Gold Glove defender with us. So for me, yeah, I was just happy that he got a contract. Although I would have, like I said, if it would have been 3 years, 80 million, it would have hurt a lot less than seeing
Oh,
3 years, 60 million. The bare minimum of what we all assumed he would get.
yeah. So it's pretty much the same money that y'all would have offered, but he left. So yeah, that's got to hurt. Uh, Walker quoted, I got some quotes from his press conference. He said, I have a lead by example type of mentality, and I know this is something you like about him. I take preparation seriously. I take the game seriously. And at the end of the day, I expect my teammates to be the best version of themselves, and I owe that to them too. We're all good at what we do. If we can prepare the right way, be good teammates to each other the right way, and treat the game the right way, I don't think we can lose.
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
That's some good words.
that's who he always was in Arizona, just leading by example. Like they always talk about the lunch pail guys, first guy in, last one out, and those are cliches for a reason. And that's always seemed to be what Walker was. Like he was just such an intense player, but he also just performed. Like the only knocks on him we can get to it at some point, but he does get cold stretches. So be aware if he starts off the season
Yeah.
a little rough. In the first couple of weeks of the season. It's normal for him. It's normal for a lot of players, but with him, it's a lot of strikeouts early on, and then he adjusts, and then he's, good luck keeping him in the ballpark. And I think with that shorter, what the Crawford boxes, I believe they're called, right?
Yeah.
In left field, you know, fans got to watch out because those balls are going to be coming at them really, really hard.
A lot of souvenirs over there. Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, we don't have Alex Bregman anymore, and also we're going to get to that later. But he doesn't heat up till May or June. Usually it's the end of May, but this year not till June. So we're kind of used to having someone on the team that takes a while, but the homegrown talent gets a little bit more patience from the fans than new guys. But hopefully they'll be that way with him. I think they'll be patient with him. I think everyone's pretty excited about him. Also, assistant coach Tony Perez Chica. You ever heard of
Yeah.
that guy?
First chicken. Yeah.
Okay, that's what it looks like. It says he joins the Astros coaching staff from Arizona. So you lost one of your coaches. Walker said he's the reason my defense is the way it is. Gold Glover. I'm very excited to work with him again. I think it's a great move bringing him on board. When it comes to the infield, he's the guy you want.
Yeah, Paris Chica, I think, is the reason why even Paul Goldschmidt became a Gold Glover. Because if you look at the draft, uh, what is it called? Like the scouting report on Paul
Yeah.
Goldschmidt when he was first scouted, it was just a guy who's gonna hit around 250 and hit 30 bombs, sort of like an Adam Dunn, if you know remember Adam Dunn,
Yeah.
maybe like sort of a guy like that, just gonna hit a whole bunch of bombs, not really good on defense. But as he progressed to the minors, same thing. Defense was a little iffy, but he was able to hit very well. Had a good eye for the ball, a lot of walks. And then once he got to the major leagues and started working with Tony and Dave McKay, our first base coach, he suddenly just became, arguably the best first baseman in baseball, especially defensively. If you look at those highlights when he was here, in those first couple of years in St. Louis, he just is incredible. Anywhere near him, he turns double plays like a machine. Same with Walker, as you see them side by side. It's the same type of player defensively. Even though Walker, I believe, is about 3 to 4 inches shorter than Paul Goldschmidt, but they both carry themselves exactly the same. Like Walker has hops. He just snags balls left and right, and he does it barehanded with the glove, whatever it is. He's just an incredible defender, and I think maybe having Paris Chico there with you guys, he wants to be able to work with this coach, this guy that he knows he's going to have great defense at least. During his cold stretches, you're going to have to, you know, take take the good with the bad in those
Yeah.
first few weeks here and there where he's not going to be hitting too well, but you're going to see some defensive gems that will probably save games because I know it happened a lot here. Man on third base and then a rocket to first, and he just snags it. Game over. That was it. So he can take the golden sombrero, but he's going to pull a play like that where you're going to be like, all right, it's all forgiven.
Yeah. I think we're excited because we've had Jose Abreu got cut, and he was really bad when he was here. I don't know why. I mean, one year he was really bad, and we got to the playoffs. He was one of the only four guys doing anything. But then the following year, he was so bad that they cut him, and they owed him a lot of money. And we pretty much went with a quadruple A first baseman the rest of the year. We even had our catchers rotating to first base. We were so desperate. So they're pretty happy. So here's a little bit on the new players. This is from our general manager, Dana Brown, our new players, and then also Alex Bregman. Dana Brown said, the way I view it now, Isaac Paredes is going to play third, and Christian Walker will play first. His thoughts on Alex Bregman, negotiation stalled. I thought we made him a competitive offer and showing him that we wanted him back. But now with these two pickups, I mean, unless he comes back and plays shortstop and they get rid of Jeremy Pena, there's no chance of him coming back. So, what do you think about Alex Bregman overall as a player? If you know anything about him, and what have you heard? I've heard the Red Sox, but he's a pull hitter too, so he can't go anywhere where it's deep to the left field. But
Yeah.
what have you heard about him, and what's your thoughts on him?
So with Bregman, I really liked him a lot. I honestly, at the time, he was one of the first guys that I noticed in his draft class because the D-backs had the first pick of the draft, and so that was the first time I really, really paid attention
Ooh,
to the drafts.
who'd y'all
And
pick?
Trevor Bauer, yeah.
Really?
So
I don't
we
remember
picked.
him playing for y'all.
He played with us for like 5 or 6 games and he got shipped off to Cleveland because he kept brushing off our catcher Miguel Montero over and over
Oh,
again, just causing issues in the clubhouse right away. So
oh.
he got shipped off as soon as they could get rid of him. But
And Alex Bregman from Arizona. No, he's from New Mexico.
oh no, you know what? Who it was? I'm thinking the wrong draft. It was Dansby Swanson. That's who it was. I'm like, wait a minute, it was another shortstop. It was Dansby.
I thought
So
he went to
Dansby
the
Swanson.
Braves.
He went to the Braves because they traded him right away for Shelby Miller.
Oh, okay. So you could have had
So
Alex Bregman.
We I would have preferred Alex Bregman
Oh,
because the
yeah.
reason why they got Dansby is because there was a hype around. I believe he was with Vanderbilt or something when they won the title. So
Yeah.
he just got that sort of bump. Same with the World Series guys; they always get that little World Series bump on their paycheck. So they selected him. Since that was the first draft I paid attention to, I was looking at these college teams and watching these games, and I was like, man, Bregman is a stud. Like that's who I want out there. And then when they chose Dansby, I was like, "Ugh." I mean, he's maybe the second or third best guy. And then when I saw you guys got Bregman, I was like, damn, like that
Yeah.
that was my guy. So I had been keeping up with him throughout his career just because he was, sort of like my baby of that draft where I was like, I know I'm right about this, and I still think I am. I still think Alex Bregman is a better player overall than Dansby ever has been or ever will be. Um, but Bregman is just he's a great player. Fortunately, because of the whole cheating scandal and everything, his legacy is gonna be tarnished, same as and everybody else in that team. So that did diminish, my respect for him a little bit. But I know there's a lot more teams that had it as well. So,
Yeah.
until
I
the
mean, they
permit,
put the, TVs in the dugouts.
yeah, it was a whole
Yeah,
ordeal. And like I said, I know that there's more teams that had it. So unfortunately, the commissioner's
yeah,
never going to release that whole report because I think half the league would be implicated. Same with the
yeah,
steroids and amphetamines as well. So but Bregman, his production has gone down a little bit, but I just think it's also
yeah,
because he just doesn't have the same protection in the lineup that he did before with Yuli, with Altuve, Springer, Correa. I mean, you guys had some freaking ballers over there,
yeah,
and you lost a lot of that production. So he has to be, the guy more, and so that means he's seeing less pitches in the zone than he ever had before. And I know there's a couple seasons, I believe in 2019, he walked like 130 times. He only struck out 90 times or something like that, something
yeah,
ridiculous. So I do think that that's who he can be, depending on what team he goes to. And he goes to Boston, they have a little bit more protection in that lineup, and I do think he can excel there. But I do think he still has a lot to give, and that
yeah,
whatever team gets him is going to get a great guy.
yeah. So Bregman was here 8 years and Walker was there 8 years, so we're both losing a
Yeah.
longtime fan favorite. But the thing about, I'm not gonna talk about it too much, but, like, what you brought up about the scandal, it's just funny how everybody hates our players, but when they go to their teams, they don't really
Yeah.
care about
Soon,
they
yeah.
don't really
Everyone.
care about that stuff anymore.
Yeah, that's what everyone. I mean, I've always said it like as a Phoenix Suns fan. It's like I hated Kobe with my life. Like, but if the Suns wanted to get him, I'd be like, all right, cool. He's
Yeah,
he's
true.
he's a Suns for life. I'm, buying
Yeah,
a Kobe jersey yesterday.
yeah, we talked about that too, about players you don't like, but if they come to your town, then you'll like them.
Yeah,
But just no hate for Altuve, that dude didn't do it. But he's
yeah,
guilty because he knew it was happening and he didn't stop it.
yeah.
Anyway,
Guilty of association.
we did, I did it, I was curious what the Astro fans would think, and this poll was really lopsided. I didn't think it was gonna be like this, but I put a poll on, X today while I was eating some Chicago style pizza. I was craving that for some reason, found a place here in town.
Lou
Uh
Malnati's,
Huh?
Lou Malnati's, or what?
No, it was just
No,
called Chicago style pizza.
no.
I went to Chicago once, and then the same restaurant there is in Vegas, and this place was okay, but it wasn't like that. But anyway, the poll was this: which two players would you rather have on the corners? Choice one is Bregman and Singleton, which is what we had last year because everybody wanted Bregman back here, or Paredes and Walker, the two new guys we got. And it was worse than this, but the total now when I looked was 86% to 14% for Paredes and Walker. So I guess they made good trades.
Yeah, yeah, it's pretty lopsided.
Yeah,
It could be just a new shiny toy or something.
that's true. Well, I think it's because we got two good guys versus Bregman and a
That's true.
quadruple A guy.
Yeah.
I think it's the sum of the two parts instead of just
Mm.
one guy. So you know who Brent Strom is?
Yeah.
All right.
Pitching
So
coach.
so he left Houston to go to Arizona, and he spent what 2 or 3 seasons there.
I believe, yeah, 22, 23, and 24, I believe.
Yeah. I think he left after 22. I think he was there in 23. Maybe it was only one. Was it?
No, I think he was in 20
It was after we won the World Series. So it might have been 20.
21. Yeah,
I don't know.
his one in 21.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we had him 22, 23, and 24, yeah.
There you go. So anyway, when he was here, he was a legend. He was someone that they could say, I mean, like Charlie Morton, when we got him from Philadelphia, people are like, what? But after a while, it's pretty much they could pick up any pitcher in the world, and we had faith that Brent Strom could fix him. And he's not here now, but the Astros did a great job with Kikuchi. He came
Yeah.
in and people were mad, and all they did was tweak what pitches he threw more than the other. They didn't tweak They didn't tweak anything about the way he throws, just which pitches that he does throw. So, what was your thoughts on Brent Strom while he was there?
Uh, Overall, I think he did a great job. A lot of these guys got a lot better, had a lot more potential. I do think towards the end, because he got let go this year, so I
Yeah,
do think
I was surprised.
maybe he just lost some of the older guys. Um, I know he butted heads with Mad Bum, but Mad Bum also butted heads with our pitching strategist Dan Heron. So Mad Bum was unfortunately just a little bit of a lost cause at that point in his career. He just didn't want to take any advice. And at the end of the season, he did criticize Gallon, in a nice way, constructive criticism that he mentioned that he thinks that Gallon is a victim of his own success because he has certain pitches that he has had a lot of success with before in his career. And so he doesn't want to get rid of them. Strami wanted to get rid, especially the slider. And if you watch a lot of these games, his worst pitch was his slider. He had a great cutter, he had a great fastball, changeup, curveball, but that slider he would just at times just spam it over and over again. He does call a lot of his pitches, so he would spam the slider, and that's a pitch that Strom did not want him to throw anymore, and just didn't want to get rid of it because he felt like he would say, this is the pitch that got me to the major league, so I don't want to get rid of it. And so I think he had the same issues with maybe some of the older guys like Montgomery, maybe Kelly. Like
Yeah,
sometimes it's not so much the message, but the delivery. And maybe just Strami's delivery just wasn't working out for the older guys anymore because it worked out for the younger guys.
yeah,
When Brandon Pfaadt first came up, he's really, really struggled. The only tweak he did to him was moving from the uh, third base side of the mound to the first base side, and suddenly he just became untouchable in the playoffs. He had a great, uh, he, he had a great season. Same with Ryan Nelson, our other guy. He just was terrible at first half, and all he did was shorten his delivery because Nelson used to stretch a little bit further back. You see the video now. He keeps his throwing arm a little bit closer to his side, and he just turned into a monster the second half. I believe he had like a 2.5 ERA through like 15 or 20 starts after that. So I do think he was great while he was here, but I as these guys get older and have more experience, sometimes the messaging you get from a guy who's almost 80 years old might not be the same as getting from like a 35-year-old guy. What I That's how old I think the new guy is. Like he's like in his mid 30s or early
oh
40s.
wow,
And all these guys are on their iPads all the time, looking at the plays and the pitching, you know, pitching graphs and all that stuff. And the story came out early on that when Strami was picked up by the D-backs, he had an entire folder on Zach Gallen. He met up with him for coffee, so he like delivered him a big old folder like this big,
wow.
and it's cool. And Gallen thought it was cool at the time, but I do think after a while, when you start seeing that stuff, you're kind of like, can you just send it to an email or put it on an iPad for me?
Old school,
Yeah.
old school. All right, so the D-backs got Josh Naylor. So you lost your first baseman, but you got another one. That's the Rock the Baby guy, right? From
Is that who it is?
Cleveland. Is that the same
Yeah.
guy?
Yeah. Yeah. Just
Okay. Kinda like that.
yeah. Yeah, we talked about him quite a bit in our last episode, just talking about how we are excited for him. Although I do think as fans we have to temper our expectations of who he is. He did struggle last year. He had been relatively consistent his first few years, but he struggled last year, and it seemed like he was unlucky because if you look at his expected batting average, seemed to be a lot higher than his regular batting average was. So whatever the issue was, just maybe barreling balls, and they just were finding defenders. Unfortunately, that happens to a lot of guys for a long time. Like mentioned Chris Davis earlier, he went that 0 for 54 or whatever it was. If you see a lot of those plays, he was hitting balls a mile, and they were still getting caught. I think he had a couple of home runs that were stolen. So unfortunately, baseball is a very hard sport. But
Yeah.
yeah, we are excited to get Naylor here. Um, Hopefully, there's an extension coming because it's only for 1 year.
Mm,
So if we're giving up a guy like Saccone, I know his numbers don't jump out at you, but I do think he could be a very good high leverage reliever. And if you're going to give up a guy with control for the next 5 years, like you need to be able to lock Naylor down because if not, we're going to be in the same position as we were this year, just scrambling, trying to find a first baseman. And this they've been hoarding their prospects quite a bit. So hopefully they can lock him down so they don't have to lose any more prospects. They can just pay him and then focused on the rest of the seasons ahead of him because we're losing Gallen, we're losing Kelly next year, we're losing Montgomery. We have like 3 or 4 vacant pitching spots next year, and Gino Suarez is gone as well. So Mike Hazen has a lot of work to do for next year.
Do you remember when the Astros traded you guys for Greinke?
Yes.
And it was the shortstop. What's his
Yeah.
name? Josh Rojas,
Josh Rojas.
Seth Beer, and somebody else, right? It might have been
It
more
was
than that.
it was like 6 guys. It was Seth Beer, Josh Rojas. It was a pitcher in there, Corbin Martin. Um, there's a couple more guys. I don't think they ever really made it to the major league roster, but the
Yeah.
main 3 pieces were Rojas, Beer, and Corbin Martin.
And are they contributing for you yet?
They have all been either DFA'd or traded away. So,
Wow.
so
Wow. Even
didn't really
Rojas?
work out. Yeah, he was traded away
Oh.
last year to Seattle to get Gino Suarez.
Oh, okay. All right. I
So,
remember
and
seeing him. He's the only one I really saw.
uh,
I was so
Ro
upset when we traded Seth Beer for Greinke, and it turned out that it was a good deal.
Seth Beer was a flash in the pan 1 month
Yeah.
guy. He just lit the world on fire that first month, and he hit a walk off his first game in the majors, and
Wow.
yeah,
He
opening
was
day he
so
hit a
good
walk off.
in the minor leagues. We were
He
just
j-
like, "This is
he
our
is
first
a
baseman of the
he's
future."
even for us, he's like our greatest quadruple A player. Like he just goes to the minor leagues, hits 400, hits
Yeah.
a ton of bombs. He comes up, strikes out a ton, and then you're like,
Yeah.
"What happened, dude? Like, what's going on here?" So I remember that day. I was like my own personal 9/11s, like just seeing Greinke get traded away because that one hurt because I
Yeah.
love Greinke. I was so happy when they got
Yeah,
him.
we
I
did
still
too.
thought he had an opportunity to really make a difference here because 2019 they only missed the playoffs by a couple of games, and I do think if they had Greinke, they could have snuck into that last wild card. And when we're trading away for prospects, I think prospects are a lottery ticket, and fortunately we got burned by that.
Mm,
And so it seems like nowadays Hazen is more in line with major league ready talents or guys who have already been in the major leagues. Like they're no longer trading prospects, and so that was a mistake they made for Greinke and the mistake they did with Goldie.
yeah. All right, so you guys have actually been pretty successful recently, right? You went to the World Series. I think you knocked the Dodgers out. I don't think
Yeah.
you won it, but you've been to the World Series and you've been making the playoffs recently, right? I mean, almost every year, but what's your outlook for this 2025 season?
So the issue with the D-backs is like since the Randy Johnson, Luis Gonzalez era, they haven't really made the playoffs in back-to-back years.
Mm,
2007, they made it to the CS. They didn't make it to the playoffs in 18. 2011, they got to the DS, got eliminated in they got swept. 2012, didn't make the playoffs. 2017, they got to the DS. No, they got swept in the DS, and again didn't make the playoffs in 2018. And 2023 made it to the World Series, didn't make it to the playoffs last year.
mm,
So they did improve the team, but you know, unfortunately, the when you have a guy in Steve Cohen spending $350 million, it's
yeah,
kind of hard to compete with those teams when you're at half of that. And even though they won 89 games, unfortunately, that was just barely not enough for this team to make it. But I do have a little bit more confidence this year just because our pitching is a lot better. I mean, this team won 89 games while having the third worst ERA in baseball. So getting back a healthy Zach Gallen, healthy Merrill Kelly, healthy Eduardo
mhm,
Rodriguez, healthy Jordan Montgomery, this team could win a lot of baseball games. So maybe they're pivoting rather than run scoring to run prevention, same as the Yankees. So then, who knows? Pitching wins championships.
yeah. You can't lose if they don't score on you. All right, so this is nothing about baseball, but what do you think about Christmas Day football on Netflix? Netflix is starting to they got into wrestling. They had the Tyson fight, which was totally a disaster. What
I
do you think about
mean,
this? Are they going to be able to handle this Christmas Day
I, I
football?
I would hope so because I know that whole Mike Tyson thing was terrible. Like the
Yeah,
streaming was horrible, and I'm like, you have all these other TV networks and everyone else who knows how to do it. I mean, Amazon Prime has Thursday Night Football, I believe, and they
Yeah,
haven't had any issues. Apple TV, although I don't like their commentators, they have great production value.
they
Like
do.
and just streaming 4K, these games look amazing. I love it when they're on there just to watch the production value because I don't like their commentators, but hopefully they can do a good job because kind of sucks to have to watch you know football on Christmas on Netflix, which I
Yeah.
don't even know if I have anymore. So if they can
I
put it
didn't
on
even
Hulu or HBO, I'm game.
I didn't even think about that if Netflix was gonna have their own announcers. I guess they have to, right?
Yeah, they have
Oh,
to. I mean,
yeah, I guess so.
they usually have these guys locked into whatever contracts they have, so they're not gonna have who's on there like Joe Buck and guys like that. They're not gonna be on Netflix football, I would assume.
Dang. Now I wanna look it up, but you can keep talking. Hey, so what do you think, anything you wanna add about your Arizona Diamondbacks? The floor is yours. Just final thoughts.
Just I'm hoping this team can make a few moves. Just this offseason isn't done yet. We gotta find a couple more relievers. We gotta find a stabilizing utility guy because the only utility guy we have right now is Ildemaro Vargas, who has bounced around the major league AAA system for almost a decade now. Um, so they really got to do something about that, and I hope they can. I mean, even our catcher, Gabby Moreno, we got to lock him up at some point. We have a lot of guys that need to get locked up at some point, and I don't know as of right now how much faith I have in the D-backs to get those deals done because they didn't pay Goldie 12 million, which we said on our podcast was the bare minimum for him, and they didn't pay Walker 60 million, which we also say was a bare minimum. So I know they want to cut spending for some reason, even though we had regular attendance. So
Yeah.
I don't know. I think a lot of D-backs fans feel a little bit insecure now, as
Yeah.
opposed to last year where we were all just happy and celebrating, talking about going back to the World Series, finally winning it. So I do think we all feel a little bit more insecure this year.
Do you think, what would you say to Astro fans? Is the, stadium a pretty nice place to go watch a game?
Um, Depends because
Stuff
we
to do
had
around the stadium?
uh our downtown is pretty decent. It started to come up. The main issue is
Mm.
summers here are terrible. And so you don't want to be outside for
Yeah.
longer than when you walk to your car and to walk outside of your car. So I the best time to go to those games would be March and April, late March, April, and then September.
Yeah.
The weather's beautiful. So far, we haven't been able to open the stadium just because there's been some issues with the stadium they haven't been able to address. And finally, supposedly this year, they're fixing the roof, and they're going to work on the air conditioning because the air conditioning is out of date as well. And
Mm.
we had a whole podcast about that because those days, those hot days, it was so humid in there. It was so uncomfortable because
Wow.
the way I mean, this is a stadium from 1998. So that's when it opened. It was built in 97. The downtown area was very different to where it is now. And the way the AC was constructed, it's a central cooling system that's below um, downtown Phoenix. So there's quite a few buildings in downtown Phoenix that they use the same system, so they're all interconnected. So the Diamondback Ten doesn't have its own air conditioning. So
Hmm.
if it's one area, especially with the rising temperatures, if you look at 1998, those highs compared to now, because of the oh man, there's there's an effect. I can't remember what it's called. It's
Global
called
warming?
Yeah, that one. But there's one called it's something like concrete or parking lot effect or something like that.
Wow.
But it's just because with how much development there isn't as much
Mm.
farmland anywhere near Chase or in Phoenix in general anymore as there used to be. Even for me growing up, I remember I used to drive 5 minutes any direction. There was farmland, and now it's all developed. You
Wow.
know, concrete and asphalt, so it just stays in Phoenix. Like Phoenix is a bowl, so the heat just stays more concentrated. Even at night, I remember as a kid, you can still play outside at night, and it felt great. It was hot, but it wasn't too bad. And now
Yeah.
it's like you step outside and you're sweating instantly, and it's
Wow.
9 p.m. or 4 a.m. in the morning. It's unbearable in summer, and it's just because
Wow.
the concrete just stays really hot, and so it just radiates the heat everywhere else.
Wow. Alright, I found that Netflix. Ian Eagle will be alongside JJ Watt and Nate Burleson for the Steelers Chiefs game, and Noah Eagle, Ian's son, will be joined by Fox's Greg Olson for the Texans and the Ravens. So anyway, with that said, Gabe, I appreciate you coming on, man. It was so much fun talking to you about the Diamondbacks and about the Astros' new first baseman. I appreciate you coming on, dude.
Yeah, thank you for the invite. I had a lot of fun here.
All right. Appreciate you. All right, go. God, blah, blah. Good Lord, it's live. I don't edit it, so these guys know. All right, from Gabe, I'm your host Rob Fontenot, and we will see you next time on Astros Baseball.